Yo, so today is the creator commentary for why the invisible barrel is invisible. I forgot to turn on my camera lights. Yo, so this is the creator commentary on why the invisible barrel is invisible. It's a nice and short video too, which may not be the best thing for you guys, but after coming off of watching 3 videos last week is okay for me. Real quick, we should do a drink check. As always, got my usual water and my 3 p.m. coffee in the Stay Sassy mug. If you're ever wondering why I like to drink coffee so late, it's just because I like to be caffeinated for recording stuff or streaming and stuff like that, so anyways, I figured let's get into the invisible barrel. Like, why not? Yo, before we get into the video, I just want to remind you guys that once I hit 100 subs, I'm going to do a face reveal and a Q&A as well. So be sure to hit that sub button as it costs you nothing. Also hit the bell if you want to be sure of when I upload. And for sure, remember to study this very informative graph. It's life-changing. Okay, it's time to get into the video. Okay. A couple things. First of all, I think I've said this before in these creator commentaries, but plugging your channel and like telling people to subscribe or right at the beginning of the video, don't do that. That's bad. The reason you don't want to do that is because it's just not advantageous at all to put it in the beginning rather than the middle. So if you think about it, who's more likely to subscribe? Someone who just clicked on your video and instead of watching the video they clicked on, they're getting 20 seconds of please subscribe to my channel, or the person who's enjoying the video so much that they've watched it halfway or even more through, and now you're asking them, hey, maybe you could subscribe. Putting at the end is also a kind of acceptable place, but people will click off. Another thing I do want to talk about, I really like this. This was funny. This is a funny way to keep using the subscribe box without doing the same thing of ground pounding on top of it. But another thing, the graph. I can't remember. I think I talked about the graph in the barrels redux video, but again, using graphs, I think actually isn't very good. Guilting your subscriber base into wanting to subscribe to you because most people who watch you aren't subscribed, I think isn't a viable method to go about, and it actually might end up getting you subscribes from people who... Yo, Editing Max here. I did a really awful job of articulating what I was going to say, so let me sum it up for you in a quick voiceover. Basically, if viewers are subscribing to you for any other reason than enjoying your content, then you risk building up a subscriber base of people who aren't actually that interested in your niche, if that makes sense. That's at least my theory. There are a lot of reasons to not want an inactive subscriber base, but the biggest is that your subscribers are the people who typically get your videos recommended to first, and if YouTube sees that the people it's pushing your videos to aren't clicking, then the algorithm is disincentivized from pushing your video out to a broader audience, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Let's get back to the live commentary. The informative graph. It's life-changing. Okay, it's time to get into the video. The invisible barrel from Ricco Harbor has long captivated the minds of many Sunshine gamers. The zoom on the invisible barrel. Why is it invisible? Why is its top collision still there? And why does it appear normal in the bin editor? Well, today I have an answer for each and every one of those questions. First, let's dive into the background of the invisible barrel for those who may not be initiated. I'll try to do this quickly as there's already an unfortunately pretty popular video about it by Red Fuzzy Dice or Magic Scrumpy. His name comes up a lot in these early creator commentaries. Red Fuzzy Dice, Magic Scrumpy, same person, infamous for plagiarizing in the Sunshine community and even worse things in the Smash community. Unfortunately though, his videos do get a hell of a lot of views. But the one positive side of Red Fuzzy Dice getting like a ton of views is that I'm able to look at this and say, okay, so there is a niche for people who want to watch Super Mario Sunshine videos and stuff like that. It's weird. Red Fuzzy Dice's existence in the beginning kept me going out of spite and has continued to keep me going because I know that there is a big niche to fill for Sunshine content. Basically, in Ricco Harbor 1, once you've initiated the Goop... I also do love making Sunshine videos, obviously. I don't want to come out here and say that I'm only chasing Sunshine videos to fill in a niche, obviously. Bloober boss fight, you technically get loaded into a separate Ricco Harbor, so it's like loading into a secret level, except you're just loading into a different version of Ricco Harbor. And in this alternate version of Ricco 1, you could... I don't know if that... extra explanation was needed. I think just saying it's like technically a new episode of Ricco Harbor or something like that would have been fine. And find the famed invisible barrel right here. What's weird about this barrel, however, is that it can't be picked up, Mario can walk right through it, and it doesn't explode into water when broken. The only sign of its existence is its top... Oh boy, here comes this part of the video. This part of the video I thought was so funny when I made it. And now when I watch this, I'm like, oh my god, just get on with it. I think I might have in post actually cut out a bit of this too. Oof, that's a tongue twister. The only sign of its existence is its top collision. Holy shit. The only sign of its existence is its top collision. Jesus Christ, say that 10 times fast. The only sign of its existence is its top collision. The only sign of its existence is its top collision, which Mario can stand on. I hope that was enough background information because now it's time to solve the mystery. Well, actually, before I solve the mystery myself, I have to first acknowledge this video uploaded by the Jeffrey Land, and while I solved the invisible barrel on my own when making the hack from my barrel playthrough, the Jeffrey Land was the first to solve it. I think I could just say Jeffrey Land was the first to solve that. I don't think I have to say that, well, I solved it on my own, because it's kind of implicit, and also it feels slightly egotistical to say, well, I solved it on my own, but the Jeffrey Land was the first. Well, mostly anyways. I wonder what this is, Sunshine Mania. Also, you know what's crazy to me? This video series by Totally Not Mark, the Dragon Ball review, which I think this is the series that there was like a huge like copyright thing. It feels weird seeing that this video was uploaded 2 years ago. That this video was 2 years old. I would guess like a year maybe. But no, it's been 2 years since that video got uploaded. I loved that Dragon Ball review series from Totally Not Mark. So that's crazy. Anyways, that's irrelevant. In their video, they show that simply moving the barrel up a little bit in the bin editor makes the barrel spawn improperly, but this still leaves us with a few questions. Spawn in properly. It sounds like I could be saying it makes the barrel spawn in properly. Improper, like with an M. Up a little bit in the bin editor makes the barrel spawn improperly, but this still leaves us with a few questions, such as why does its top collision still exist when the barrel doesn't? And why is the barrel invisible in the first place? Oh yeah, I think this video might have been the beginning of when I started doing the shrugging Mario thing. Why does its top collision still exist when the barrel doesn't? And why is the barrel invisible? No pan shot here though. In the first place. So for starters, we've got to get something kind of awkward out of the way first. You see, the invisible barrel isn't actually invisible, or even a barrel. I mean, it's kind of a barrel, but it isn't. So what do I mean by that? I feel like... No, this is just creative flair. I was gonna say, I feel like I could have been through this section a lot faster, but I think this is just like creative flair in the script, which I think is fine. Are we working with a Schrodinger's barrel of some kind? What? Oh yeah, also this shot, by the way. So I had the Inkstar cinematic camera mod, which is you press a button on the D-pad and then it locks the camera in place, kind of like a tripod. And so I think I locked the camera in, like right here. And then what I did was, so this is when I used to edit in Adobe Premiere Rush. So it was a very limited program. So I would have done this very differently today because I use DaVinci Resolve now, which is completely free and also 1,000 times better than that program. But I think what I did was that I took one video of Mario looking at the barrel like this. I then broke the barrel, walked Mario away, and then just recorded an empty scene. And then the empty scene I layered on top of up to like here. So I like cut it forward and back like this, if that makes sense. And that's how the barrel pops in and out of existence. And I think you might be able to see remnants of that in the background. Let's see. But it isn't. So what do I mean by that? Are we working with a Schrodinger's barrel of some kind? Well, very, very interesting stuff. I don't know if any of that makes sense the way I described it. It's so weird, but this is one of the most like creative advanced things I was able to do in Adobe Premiere Rush. Are we working with a Schrodinger's barrel of some kind? Well, no. You see, barrels in Sunshine, as you may already know, especially if you watch my episode of Sunshine Experiments on Barrels, are quite glitchy. Wait, 39 subscribers. I had less at the beginning, right? Oh no, 44. Okay, I was growing. Wow. That's awesome. You watch my episode of Sunshine Experiments on Barrels are quite glitchy. Specifically, their top collision likes to glitch out a lot. For instance, this glitch that I call the BCS happens every time Mario places down a barrel. Basically, what happens is the barrel's top collision, I was obsessed with barrels back in the day. Part that Mario can stand on. So wait, let's just count up to this point. I have done the 2 original Sunshine Experiments on Barrels, then the remake, then the barrel only challenge run, and then this invisible barrel. That's 5 videos, and let's go to my channel real quick. That is 5 videos about barrels by this point right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11 if we count the unlisted videos. That is half of my videos were about barrels. That's awesome, man. And this video doesn't even count. Nor does this video. This video is a shitpost, so is this. Anyways, moving on.
gets skewed off of the barrel, which means Mario can just stand on thin air. And by that extent, Mario can no longer stand directly on top of the barrel either. But despite that, you would still...
Why did I speed up the footage there? I feel like that just makes it harder to read.
extent, Mario can no longer stand directly on top of the
Yeah, I only needed to show him jumping on it like 3 times. I didn't have to speed up this footage.
barrel either. But despite that, you would still say that the barrel is here and not here, right? And you definitely wouldn't say that the barrel is invisible, right? Well, as it turns out, the quote-unquote invisible barrel in Rico Harbor has a very similar thing happening to it. What we call the invisible barrel is really just its top collision. So you might be wondering, where's the rest of the barrel? Well, if we go into FreeCam, all we have to do is look below the stage to see that in fact, the barrel is not invisible. It's just under
Very
the
clean
stage.
shot.
So what's really going on here? Why does the barrel spawn below
Oh yeah, I had a Mario invincibility code so he wouldn't die down here, by the way, because this is a death floor.
the stage, but its collisions spawn above the stage? And why does raising the barrel slightly seem to completely fix it? Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple. There are 2 things at play here. First, we'll start with why the barrel spawns below the stage. You see, with objects that have gravity and sunshine, such as barrels, fruit, etc., they tend to snap to the ground below
Wait.
them when spawning in. For
I don't know why I didn't just rewrite the script and re-record this part. I must have been right at the end of like recording the video or something, or making the video, because I'm like, okay, so objects, they tend to snap to the ground when you put them in the bin editor. And then I go on to show an object that doesn't snap to the ground when put it in the sky in the bin editor.
sunshine, such as barrels, fruit, etc., they tend to snap to the ground below them when spawning in.
So the actual like wisdom here would be barrels, piantas. Piantas fall to the ground though. They don't really snap. Or NPCs really, other than piantas. A lot of enemies, again, they would fall to the ground instead of snap. And I'm sure there's a couple of other things I'm forgetting, but so this is an example. This is actually how I write scripts. I'll write a script when I have like kind of minimal research done, and I'll make a bunch of assumptions. And what I'll do as I'm recording is like, so okay, it's time to show this thing that I made an assumption about is actually even true. And then like some percent of the time it's actually not, and I have to go back and rewrite the script. Here, for some reason, I didn't rewrite the script.
For example, we can put a barrel all the way up here in the sky, but once we load into the game, it snaps to the ground. And that same thing is what's happening with the so-called invisible barrel. The barrel is snapping to the out-of-bounds ground below it, and it's snapping to that ground because it was placed too low in the level editor. In other words, the only ground beneath the bottom of the barrel is out of bounds, as the barrel was placed partially sunken in the ground. Okay, well that's one thing
I wonder why there's a barrel there in the first place. Because there's never just a barrel here normally, right? I wonder why. That's so weird.
out of the way. So what's the next? Well, let's look at why the barrel's collision still exists on the top of the ground. As it turns out with barrels, their top collision tends to not update properly. This is most obvious with the aforementioned BCS, but I can demonstrate this bug a bit more clearly. Here, we can see that the barrel's collision is right where it should be. But if we teleport the barrel using my epic hacker skills, you can see that while the
That's awesome. That's just me using Dolphin Memory Engine, by the way, which is cheat engine, but for Dolphin specifically.
barrel itself has teleported, the top collision has stayed where the barrel originally was. This is all starting to come together, huh? So with those 2 things in mind, we can easily deduce what's actually happening here with the invisible barrel. The barrel is set to spawn right here in the level, but because its bottom is sunken beneath the ground, it teleports to the ground beneath it, which happens to be out of bounds. But since the top collision of barrels doesn't like to update correctly, it stays where the barrel was placed in the level editor, despite that it's actually floating.
I felt so smart for figuring all this out, by the way.
And to top it all off, if we go back to the barrel we placed in the sky earlier, we can actually see that, much like the invisible barrel, the top collision stays floating where we placed the barrel earlier.
I really like how this video ends, because it just ends with like basically the watershed piece of proof, essentially. I figure I might as well show off how I actually kind of figured this all out. So give me a second to pull up some things, and let's make sure there isn't anything else in the outro.
Well, that was quick.
Oh,
Again,
right, there actually is an outro. I thought it would just be like 20 seconds of me, of just silence.
I'd like to shout out the Jeffrey Land for beating me to a large part of this mystery. I don't in any way want to steal their thunder or take their credit.
That's me, by the way, very consciously trying to be the exact opposite of Magic Scrumpy,
So be sure to give that video a quick watch if you haven't already. Anyways, I've been Angry Max, and later.
Oh yeah, and the ending here shows the failed attempts on getting on top of the barrel. Okay, so I figure I may as well show you how I even came to the kind of realization that spawned the entire Invisible Barrel video. And it was when I was making the Barrels Only Challenge run. And I'm sure you can already kind of start to put 2 and 2 together here. But so at the end here, my plan was to not barrel stack, but stack barrels up to the top here, which I'm now wondering if there's a possible way to do this. But anyways, I put the barrels pretty high here up in the editor because at the time I knew they snapped down. I didn't think there were any other consequences. But then we come into Sunshine itself, and of course, by this point, I'd already been familiar with like the BCS, the barrel collision skew. At first, I just like didn't think about it much. Like this happens a lot where something weird happens. I kind of just push it aside in my brain because it's not like my main focus. But then I kind of like started thinking about it more and more like, wait, actually, I haven't placed these barrels down. They shouldn't be doing a BCS. Why can't I stand on top of them? Eventually, I can't remember what happened, but I think I landed on top of a barrel somehow up top or something. I think that's what happened. Like eventually I landed up here and I was like, wait, what? And so I eventually put 2 and 2 together here, like that, like the BCS, the barrel collisions don't update from when you place them in the bin editor. They stay up in the sky. So that's kind of how I came to that realization. And of course, my brain immediately went to the invisible barrel and I was like, oh, wait, so the invisible barrel has just a top collision you can stand on, but you can walk through it. When you ground pound it, you don't see any water. I wonder if this is related at all. So I went and looked at the invisible barrel. And of course, when you look at the invisible barrel on the bin editor, the barrel is actually still there. And then I looked at it in game and then clipped my camera under the ground to see if the barrel was clipping through the ground. And of course, it was. Yeah, that's how I came to the realization for that entire video. And I pretty much immediately started making that video as soon as I finished making the barrels only challenge run, I think. Because let's actually fact check that real quick. Yo, water rockets are weird. Sorry. Yeah. I pretty much immediately began making that because it just felt like a kind of watershed moment for me. I didn't know about the Jeffreyland video when I first started going into this video, by the way, so it felt even bigger to me than it actually was. For the umpteenth creator commentary in a row, I've almost forgot to review the thumbnail. This time, you actually get a proper recording though, because I pretty much immediately after ending the recording remembered I need to do this. So, thumbnail review. This is a thumbnail that looks a lot better zoomed out than zoomed in, because you can see my really bad crop job on Mario. What I wanted to do was add a vignette to the background here. I like to add vignettes in thumbnails because it kind of draws your attention to the focal point of the thumbnail. So you can see the difference here between using the vignette and not using the vignette. It's, in my opinion, a much uglier thumbnail. Mario doesn't stand out as much. The colors don't stand out as much. So making everything darker kind of lets all the other colors pop out more, which in my opinion makes for a better thumbnail. I don't know if that's actually true, but in my opinion, it makes it look better. I like how I signified the invisible barrel in this thumbnail. It could have been bigger, but I went for a more realistic look. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, this is actually what the original thumbnail was, like this. But then I went through a period of time where I realized I liked this font better for thumbnails because it's a lot more aggressive, I guess. It's a lot more readable too, blocky. I think it just works better for, you know, the limited small space when you have a thumbnail like this big. So I ended up coming back and updating the thumbnail with that, and also made it obviously bigger so it's more readable, because again, thumbnail, you're looking at it like probably like this size. And so what's more readable, that or that? Maybe this was the original thumbnail. I don't know. But yeah, that's the thumbnail. Nothing super interesting. It's basically just an in-game screenshot. I don't know exactly how I made this halo, but whatever I did, it was a really bad way. I would have done this way better. It would have looked way better nowadays. I've gotten way better at cropping Mario out without using like a green screen or anything. Usually I do. If I have time, I'll use a green screen to crop Mario out or other objects out of the foreground. But for instance, a recent stream I just did. In this stream, this image right here was cropped directly out of Rico 2. No like green screening or anything. And you can't tell. There's no like weird halo or anything around this. And I was rushed on this stream too, so that's why I didn't do the green screen. So, oh, you can tell right here. You can tell right here. But again, when the thumbnail is like this size, you can't tell. And it maybe even works to your advantage having a high contrast halo around Mario. It's kind of just like having an outline. Anyways, that's actually going to be it for the video. Thank you everybody for watching. I super duper appreciate you being members, tier 2s, blue coin tier. You could even say. It is an absolute honor to me that you guys are willing to monetarily support me at $10 a month. You know, you could get a lot more value out of that $10 a month off of actual subscriptions, but you know, you choose to support me, so I'm eternally grateful. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. So I guess it's time to do the thumbnail pose. Last time it was really awkward, but it actually turned out, it turned out good if you look at that last thumbnail. So let's get it. Was that good?